Hello, and welcome to Trying Times, the show where I talk about some of the trying times in my own life, as well as the general trying times we all know of and may experience in our own lives. If you're new here, hello, my name is Carmen. I'm basically your friend now and want you to think of this episode as a phone call where we're just kind of catching up on some things in life and just kind of chilling. Really, that's it. That's kind of the vibe we're going for. So there's that. Now that you're up to speed, I wanted to share something cool that I think would be fun. There's this new feature where you can basically leave me a voicemail and I can listen to it and then also include it in upcoming episodes. So if you want to chat and share your thoughts on an episode or even share a bit more about a topic that you want to hear more about, then go ahead and leave me a voicemail. To do so, there's a link in the description of this episode that you can visit, and there will be a button that says message with a little chat bubble beside it. So you can leave one by clicking that and starting a recording. I hope to hear from you, and I hope you have fun while recording. Okay, so into today's episode, I wanted to delve into the world of milestones. This is something I've been thinking about for the last little while, and I guess I just kind of want to start that off with the definition of milestones would technically read as. So let's see what that says. So according to Google, milestones are defined as an action or event marking a significant change or stage in development. So I think most of us really know of them as basically just that, a moment in time or a time in our life, I should say, where we achieve something and typically we'll celebrate that. So I think generally if it isn't enough that we're expected to achieve things, obviously that's just something that's happening in life, it's expected on a pretty severe timeline when you head into adulthood. And I've just sort of been, I think as you enter adulthood, you learn about that. And that's something that I think I've been learning more about as I've been growing up. So that's kind of why I wanted to get into this today. So I sort of sat on this one day and was thinking of the different levels of achievements, if you will. And more so the levels of achievements I've always seen a lot of people expect from others or celebrate above other achievements. So I find that kind of interesting in itself, that there are certain achievements that people look at as more of an achievement than other achievements. By the end of this episode, all you're going to hear in your head is the word achievement on loop, basically, is what's happening right now. I have said it so many times in the last minute. But before I really delve into the different levels of achievements, if you will, or styles, I guess, or kinds, I don't know what you want to word that as, I just want to preface this with the fact that the quote unquote achievements I'm going to talk about are not the only achievements in the world. These are what are typically portrayed as the major milestones in life, and I don't by any means mean to belittle them or, make them seem not as important or as exciting as they are, because they are. So if these are milestones that you want to focus on in your life and work to achieve, I think that's amazing. Everyone's different, everyone leads a different life. So I just wanted to say that before getting into it. Now, without further ado, the first milestone that people will look to at a younger age is schooling and achieving a degree or certificate. So this is the very first one I want to get into, I guess, is more so education related. This is usually through university or college or both for some people. And a lot of the time, students, I think, are expected to apply to programs at a younger age, or at least begin to look into what they would want to do with the rest of their lives towards the end of high school. I put that in quotes. To me, this just feels so daunting because you can't necessarily expect every single person around the age of 16 or 17 to know what they want to do with the rest of their lives. There are people out there just discovering what they want to do and pursue at the age of 50 and up, which, by the way, I think that's amazing, because I'm just glad that anyone, whether you're figuring that out later in life, earlier in your life, I think it's amazing when someone's just very passionate about what they want to do and they know what they want to do, and there's never an age limit on that. So I think going off of that, there's a handful of people who begin their journey at school and are unable to complete their studies. So people that maybe, this could be high school, university, college, whatever it may be, there are a handful of people that are unable to complete their studies, whether that is due to financial circumstances, maybe their mental health is not in the best place at that time, maybe there's another prior commitment that they need to prioritize and focus on fully, and I just want to say that that's okay. If you choose not to go for your own reasons, that's fine. And I think if you discover that school is not it for you right now, that's fine. And if you choose to pursue that goal later in life, then that's okay. Personally, I do think that education is incredibly important, and I feel very fortunate to have had the opportunity myself to go to university and further my educational career. And with that being said, it's not for everyone. That's fine. I think, like I said earlier, if you decide to try post secondary schooling later in life, that's amazing. And if you don't, that's okay. Like, it's literally all personally tailored to you and what works for you. And achievements aside, like, that's what works for you. And so I think that's really important. But, anyways, generally, when you graduate, that's a big achievement that people look at and think of in a positive way, right? And it is a celebratory thing, after all. No matter how long you study a program for, you did it. So, yeah, like, go celebrate that. Like, go full out. Wholeheartedly just go celebrate that. I personally remember being really excited about graduating and having completed my program after 4 years had gone by, which was the length of my program. And it was just like a really exciting moment where obviously I was a little scared because now you're entering the real world, but I think it was more so exciting because I completed it, I did it, and it was something that I was passionate about. It just made it much more of an exciting experience for me. It was still tough a lot of the time, but it was also amazing being able to study something I was passionate about. What I do find interesting though is because people really hype up the importance of school and then like just kind of making sure you've achieved that in your life, it's interesting that it's often followed up with this really annoying question of, okay, like you're studying, cool, what are you studying? But then once you're done, it turns into, what job are you going to do now? So it's sort of this jumping point of how milestones can be achieved, but to a general consensus of people, it's never quote unquote fully achieved. Because if you decide to study something and then later on in life decide to pursue a career in something not fully related to that, or maybe not related to it at all, then that sometimes gets questioned too. And in a lot of ways, it's just kind of like, who cares? If you're doing something that you enjoy and it's making you feel good and you're just working on something and are able to support yourself and are content, then that's great. That's really all that matters. I guess further going off of that, that was like a smoother transition than I thought it would have been. But the next milestone I want to get into is career. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot here I won't be able to cover because it is so extensive, as with education, and then also the final milestone I'll get into, but I still want to touch on it because it's a really important one. So, career is one of the milestones that I find myself dwelling on quite a bit, along with a lot of other people that are my age, because it's just this interesting thing that's ever changing, and that's okay. But the idea of it being ever changing is not something that is commonly discussed or said to be a social norm. But all in all, I think it's interesting because we all experience a handful of various jobs in our lives, and that's only to be expected. So whether you pursue post-secondary schooling or not right after high school, there's a big chance you'll be working some job or another at that point in time that is not going to be what you want to do for the rest of your life, and that's okay. Maybe it is. I don't know. I can't speak for you. But I personally remember working a couple of random jobs varying from retail to warehouse work around this time, kind of like just a general transitional time. And I was working internships as well that were more so based in my field of study slash career interests. And I found it interesting because I was in school, so those jobs that may not have been so related to my degree or to my field of study were often overlooked because I was pursuing studies at the same time. And I can't help but wonder, if I had not been studying, then would that reaction be different? I've actively tried my best to always try to work in a specific field since graduating, which I think can be tough because the market out there just for job hunting and everything is very tough. It's very complicated, but I do like to stick to what I studied because it is truly what I am passionate about and what I want to stay in. And so I noticed that, I thought I had was, if I stray, or anyone for that fact strays from what they studied, then it can be partially criticized. And of course, if you work on something that someone may deem successful, whatever that may mean to them, then that's not questioned whatsoever. And I find that really interesting and also very unsettling at the same time. I don't know. At the end of the day, I guess like it's truly in your hands what you do. And there's always going to be someone who disapproves of whatever you choose to do. But if it makes you happy and Like I said, you're living and you're able to provide for yourself and whatnot, then leave those criticisms off to the sidelines where they belong. Because I truly think people will forever question what you do and why you're doing it. So you shouldn't question it so harshly yourself. I'm also saying this out loud as a reminder to myself. Also, I think it's interesting because there's so many different sides to careers, and people always wait for someone to have some sort of exciting news where they're either elevating in what they're doing or, getting a promotion or just being seen as the most networkable or successful. And all in all, I personally think that's kind of crazy. No two people will ever have the same outlook on success or technically whatever they deem successful in another person. So I think to understand what that means for you and then keep that close to your core values is very important. And also that whole thing of like having a boss mindset and hustling and whatever, if that works for you, that's awesome. And if it doesn't work for you, that's awesome. I personally think it's kind of a load of crap because there are a bunch of different work ethics or trains of thought or approaches to projects, a lot of which are successful. And it doesn't all have to be done the one same way that one person may claim is the millionaire way to do it. I hate that because there are a number of things, whether it be television shows, movies, that have been written time and time again, have been rejected time and time again before they've made it to that big screen where audiences were so excited to be there and watch it and want to rewatch it and all this stuff. And so nothing is ever done the one same way to be successful. I think that's really important to remember. So that's enough of that. The next and final milestone I want to get into is relationship related milestones. I think the biggest things being marriage and then furthermore starting a family. Like those are the things I'll get into a little bit. I don't really know much about this myself, so I'm not gonna talk from personal experiences, but more so what I see on a regular basis. I also just want to say that first and foremost, I've always been a very career goal oriented type of person. So I've never really taken that time out to focus on anything related really to marriage and whatnot. I have my own personal views on that, and that's totally okay. I think there's a lot of people I know who are my age who are very similar in being focused on their career and find joy within that. And then there's also a lot of other people who are in and around my age who are excited for marriage and may prioritize this over their career. But as long as their relationships feel happy, they feel successful in their lives, and that's great. And then finally, there's also people who work on both at the same time. And I think that's amazing. So there's tons of different approaches to that. So I just find it interesting how it can all be handled differently by different people. And I notice when people get engaged, this is like the biggest thing where, they feel happy to take that next step in their relationship and it's congratulated. And then immediately people are like, when are you going to get married? And I just think that's so weird. Like, let these two people celebrate the fact that they've been able to, come together and make this next step in their relationship. I just think it's ridiculous when people start to question that for someone else because they're not involved in that. So, questioning it is just so ridiculous to me. And then also, furthermore, when they're married, they're congratulated, but then it's like, when are you going to be starting a family? And it's just like this never ending loop of what the next step should be or what society deems is the right thing to do next, which is just so crazy. So, again, similar to schooling and then career, this milestone is just packed with different levels and hierarchies. And I find that so intriguing. I think when I sat down at first to think about all this like whole topic of milestones, I just thought about so many of the pressures that were held within each of them, and not just necessarily pressures from within a person, but often these subtle external criticisms that lead into a pressure of something celebratory maybe not being that celebratory. And it made me begin to question how we feel pressure and why we feel pressure. And also, why could pressure often be felt from those that we may not even be close to? So, something like family, friends, or relatives, or just acquaintances, It's interesting how we sometimes feel pressures from other people that we're not even close to. So I want to know if you were able to relate to any of those milestone pressures, and also if you have ever felt that pressure, whether it be from yourself or someone else. And if you want to physically answer this and not just like right now as you're listening, then go ahead and send me a message on Instagram at the Trying Times Podcast and we can chat. If you're feeling like talking aloud, then go ahead and leave me a voicemail. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And of course, let me know if you're comfortable with me sharing that in an episode, because if so, I'd love to build on this conversation in another episode. And yeah, if you'd like to leave a voicemail, again, go ahead and check out the link in the description of this episode and get started. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I really appreciate you. I hope you know that. And on the real, I hope wherever you are and whatever you're doing, that you have a great day or night. Again, whenever you may be listening to this, I don't know. But yeah, I really appreciate you, all right? And we'll chat soon. Bye.